Everybody, welcome back to another episode of Canopus Chats with JD Price. I want to say thank you so much for what you've been doing, commenting, liking, sending messages, and I think that's awesome. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Again, we're in season 2. And as I told you before, season 2 is about choices. And so the guests that you will meet are individuals who are going to share their stories about the choices they have made in the past and how those choices have helped them to develop into the persons that they are and what it is that they are doing. I am fortunate today to have as a guest on Canopus Chats, Frank Bryant, and he is the CEO and founder of Liquid Barrier LLC, and it's a New York-based writing and social media digital management consultancy. And so he's going to participate in our segment today and just participate in 3 parts. He's going to do his choice, my choice question. He's going to do my choice, and then he's going to answer questions from the people's choice. So welcome, Frank. How are you?
I'm doing well, Janet. Thanks so much for having me.
You are welcome. So Canopus Chats is great. Looking forward to this conversation today for you to tell us about what it is Liquid Barrier has to offer. But before we get started, I would like you to participate in these I am statements. And so by you participating, you can pick either 1, 2, or 3. And when you do, I will ask you to tell us your I am statement based on the number that you've selected.
Okay, I will say I am 2.
I am 2. So this is not it. That's 3. Okay. This is not it, but this is 2. So okay. I am 2 says, I am a communication strategist, digital management solutionist. So talk to me about what does that mean?
Well, I think that essentially we're a writing consultancy business. Mm-hmm. And, just to preface the question, we write content in 3 different categories, I would say. Technology, RFIs, RFPs, technical specifications, KPIs, presentations, contracts. Then I would think the second category is business plans, any type of business communication, contracts. And the third is social media, content over well-known social media platforms, i.e. LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. So many companies now, because of our digital environment, and that was in your question, and also because of COVID-19 now, are communicating with employees and partners, peers, and of course clients and customers via social media platforms. And those social media platforms and that communication is done rather strategically. Mm-hmm. So if a company is just starting, for instance, on LinkedIn or Facebook, they may want to strategically communicate sort of why they are who they are, what their mission statement is, what their goals, strategies, and objectives are for the company mission, company services they plan to offer to the audience, who the audience is. So very much so now, we're writing for, small, medium, and large companies, or again, are communicating through social media and doing so from a particular strategy perspective.
Okay, great. So your name or the name of the business is Liquid Barrier. Tell me a little bit about how that name came about and why that name.
Well, actually, that's a great question. And the answer to that question is a few years ago, I had a sort of, when you're between full awakeness and being asleep, I was just kind of rolling out of bed and groggy and kind of as I was rolling out of bed, I had this little dream, and or a little voice spoke in my ear and said, you know, if you ever have a small company, name it Liquid Barrier. So I got up and woke up and wrote down Liquid Barrier, and then lo and behold, COVID-19 came, and my employment situation was such that I wanted to start a company, and I knew what the name would be, Liquid Barrier, which is the voice that was spoke to me that day when I was waking up.
Okay, so
That's the name.
the voice gave you the name, and as you said, COVID-19 helped to catapult or the launching of your business.
Exactly.
Talk a little bit about where you were before, and not necessarily calling names, but your transition out of these renowned corporations, and now you're forming your own company.
Sure. I worked in corporate America for 25 years, and I was laid off from a large, well-known company on March the 13th, the day that I think our president declared COVID-19 to be a national emergency. So I, as a fact, I got another offer from a large global pharmaceutical company, and that offer was rescinded also because of COVID-19. So I thought that I could maybe start to do some freelance writing in between my next 9-to-5 opportunity, because I didn't know how impactful COVID-19 was going to be on the job market. But I started writing. I picked up a few customers, and I picked up a few more and a few more. And the more I sort of did my own thing, my freelance writing, the less I started looking for a new 9-to-5 opportunity. So things are going well, and I'm still doing my own thing.
What advice would you offer to someone who has had ideas about doing something, and now they're faced with a pandemic or a crisis that is now pushing them forward? Sometimes they might be afraid to go ahead, but you did not.
Well, I mean, you bring up an excellent point, and I bring up this point to everyone, is that I didn't start my company because of any grand strategy or motivation or push or initiative. I started this company because I had to. I was unemployed. I was laid off. I was in an environment where I didn't know how long it would take me to get the next opportunity. At the same time, I am a little bit older. So I did what I had to do, again, because I had to do it. So I think nowadays, many folks who may have spent years in corporate America, may be a little bit older, maybe of color, maybe a woman, maybe employed or not employed. You have to look for other revenue streams. You can't depend on one. You may have to look at 3 or 4 or 5 revenue streams. So I had a corporate job. I started this job. I own a 3-family home. I have a tenant. I live in another part of the home, so there's a revenue stream there. What I will say to everyone, I had the skills to get back up my feet.
Right.
I speak well. I write well. I think I'm well read. I'm well educated, thanks to my parents. I understand technology. My entire time I spent in corporate America was under the IT umbrella. So when I sort of was confronted with this situation, also I would say, I had to get up and go, and the motivation,
Mm-hmm.
when I get down or get knocked down, I know how to pick myself back up.
So you got laid off in March,
Right,
and you
right.
started Liquid Barrier a couple weeks later
Sure.
independently. But when I
Yes.
look at your write-up, you have a team of people that are
Yes.
working with you. How did you put these people together so quickly?
Well, I met these people. Well, first of all, it started because I met somebody uh, representing a large company
Mm-hmm.
who said that she needed 10 writers
Mm-hmm.
to staff this particular project.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't necessarily have an intention on expanding the company beyond myself
Right.
so quickly, but it was a request from someone to find some additional writers to staff a particular project for a particular company, and this company happens to be an AI
Mm-hmm.
machine learning company. Um, but just to quickly go back to your last question, one thing I think is very important is to have technology skills, to understand technology, not necessarily be a coder or a programmer, but understand how technology works, how to work with technology on a personal level, and how to work with technology that's integrated and supporting a business. Technology is very critical. So a lot of the reason I was able to pick myself back up was because I had technology
Expertise.
acumen, so to speak. And then many of the clients I have are technology companies. As I mentioned, we're supporting a machine learning AI company.
Right.
So it's good to be close
Mm-hmm.
to and understand and be involved with technology. Technology is always going to be part of our lives going forward.
So what I know that you have a degree from Rutgers University in English,
Right.
and obviously you're continuously learning new
Sure.
information for us to have that personal relationship with technology. Do you have any recommendations, maybe literature or books that you found resourceful and helpful in the process, so that someone who is maybe laid off and wants to maybe have some skill set but might be a little deficient in the technology side,
Sure.
would you maybe recommend something that you've
Yeah,
read that was helpful?
I think I would Google and look for a book on project management.
I see.
Because if you're a project manager, you don't necessarily need to know a lot of the details about technology, a lot of the hands-on details, but project management sort of gives you an exposure to more the business application of technology. And I was a project manager in corporate America, as well as being a technical writer and a business analyst. And when people ask what I did in corporate America, I served as a liaison between business and technology stakeholders, i.e., coders, DBAs, business analysts, other project managers, developers, QA analysts. And what I would do is I would understand kind of what the business wanted to do with a particular application, either building a new application or upgrading the application. And I was kind of the go-between, the translator, again, the liaison between those two parties. And from that, I learned a lot about technology.
I see. So, one of the questions that I have for you, and as I go through my choice questions,
Sure.
Communication skills is quite salient, and most
Yes.
times when people major in communications, they're like, so what are you going to do with a communications degree? I want you to tell me, based on your experience, the role that communication plays in the positions that you have occupied.
That's a good point. If I would say my strongest skill in what I do professionally, I would say it's my communication skills. I believe I speak well. Of course, I write well. I present well. I have, I believe, excellent business etiquette. I know how to dress professionally. I know how to give a firm handshake when we could give firm handshakes.
Right.
I know to look people in the eye. I know appropriate body language when meeting. So sort of spoken and written communication is very, very important. It's important to come off confident and polished and professional and confident and knowledgeable.
All right, excellent. Well, thank you, Frank. All right, so let's move on to the people's choice, right? So you've answered several questions that I prepared for you. Now, people want to know a few questions. And so one of them has to do with why did you choose to focus on small businesses and women, or women and minority businesses?
Well, I mean, another great question. Number one, I was just starting off myself, so it made sense to sort of start off small, get my feet wet with smaller businesses, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, and then grow. I think it might have been challenging to try to service a JP Morgan Chase or a BlackRock or a Goldman Sachs, right off, or right from the start. But I chose minorities because, and specifically Black women, because as most of us know, Black women are the number one small business starters in the United States. Black women are very well educated, very bright, very, very professional, very proactive, and have had to unfortunately fend for themselves and their families in today's environment. And often Black women and other minorities don't get the support, don't get the respect, don't get the attention that others may get. So I saw that as a gap in the market, and a market that needed me and my services. I also thought Black women would appreciate an African American man starting his own company and trying to grow and thrive.
Okay, so I know that in terms of minority, you specifically mentioned, African American. I don't know, Latinx. Is that a part of you expanding, or in terms of minority, or just right now, just women?
I mean, at this point, I would do business with any company of any size, any gender, sexual orientation, religion, race. I don't rule out anybody.
Right.
But as an African American man, and then given our racial history in this country, given recent events involving George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, I felt as a business person, of course, I would have to provide some focus to my own community that I know has struggled in some areas.
Okay, excellent. So one other question, and I put my envelope down, but I remember one of the question was totally unrelated to Liquid Barrier LLC and more about your athleticism. Hockey. Why hockey?
Well, hockey is a wonderful sport, as I say to many folks and those who play hockey or enjoy it. Hockey is not really a sport; it's more like a religion. It's really something quite transcendent. And I started playing hockey because I think originally I said to myself, I played soccer all of my life and stopped as I got a little bit older. And I said, well, then I started working at the gym, and I said, well, after years of playing soccer, this is just not enough. I need something a little bit more sort of engaging and vigorous. And I also said to myself, well, I'm going to try something new every 5 years. So I said, well, I'm going to learn how to play hockey. So there's a kid that I work with who played, and I said, well, I'm going to learn how to play. And he said, oh, yeah, right. So at 36 years old, I went to the local rink, and I started skating, around and around and around. And I could stay up on the skates because I roller skated as a kid. But the skates that I rented weren't particularly good, so I bought my own skates, and religiously for a year, when I say religiously, I mean really religiously, okay. I skated every weekend without fail, sometimes twice a week. And then at the end of a year, I bought all the equipment and took a hockey workshop.
You weren't kidding when you said that this was a religious activity.
Yes.
So you committed yourself to practicing, learning all the skill sets that were required to show proficiency.
Exactly. And years and years and years later, I'm still playing and still skating. But hockey is great. It's great exercise. And you use the all parts of the body. And then when you're playing hockey, it's quite rigorous.
Right. Yes, I see them at the rink down the bar.
Exactly.
That's awesome. So Frank, I think this is great what you're doing with Liquid Barrier, and the fact that you so quickly realign and reassess your skills, what you have to offer, and get right in there so that you can generate income. And I congratulate you for not getting stuck and for being so resilient in this time. And it is now offering your expertise to the niche market that you think can really benefit from the services that you have.
Sure.
As I wrap up this segment, do you have maybe a favorite quote or a mantra that you live by? Less than 30 seconds.
Well, I think one favorite quote, and I can't quite remember the entire quote, but the quote goes, that if a man has no integrity, he basically has no worth.
Okay, powerful. Well, thank you, Frank, and there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Frank Bryant from Liquid Barrier LLC, and he's offering his communication strategist and solutionist to those who are in need, entrepreneurs and so forth. Frank, thank you so much for speaking with me.
Thank you. Please tell people where they can find me.
Yes, right. Okay, so he's on LinkedIn and he has email addresses, and I'll actually post it at the end so that they can find you.
Thank you for having me, Janet.
You're welcome.